Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazo.
Hello, and thank you again for tuning in to Worldview Matters. We appreciate you guys praying and sharing the podcast. Another important topic today, they all are. There's so many issues to deal with from the perspective of the Bible and our biblical worldview and Christians in America, and so much going on. But this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and organizations that stand for preborn human lives in mothers' wombs should be supported nationwide. And it's a shame that we have the political issues we have, the divide, even in the church. But that's for another podcast. I want to bring on Dr. Karysse Hutson. She's the National Director, Medical Director for Save the Storks. We'll tell you about them in a minute. She's a board-certified OB/GYN, global women's health expert, and dynamic speaker who combines clinical excellence with compassionate, life-affirming care. With a career that spans 5 continents, Dr. Hutson brings award-winning medical expertise to audiences in hospitals, government, media, and faith-based communities worldwide. We're blessed to have her. Karysse, good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, David. What an honor to be here, and thank you for your work.
Praise God. We got to keep it going. I want to give you your website so people can look up what you guys do, and we'll have you explain about SaveTheStorks.org, SaveTheStorks.org. First of all, I'm in my notes here, you guys are a national pro-life nonprofit organization. You guys started in 2012. What else can you tell us to give our viewers and our listeners an idea of what you guys do?
Yeah, our Save the Storks, our mission is really to create a story of hope and empowerment for every woman who's facing an unplanned pregnancy. And the way we do that is really threefold. First, we partner with pregnancy resource centers around the nation to elevate their medical offerings and make sure that they're delivering gold standard, top standard medical care to the women coming in seeking not only social and emotional help, but also physical help for an unplanned pregnancy. And we also have mobile medical clinics that bring women's health care directly to where it's most needed outside of Planned Parenthoods or college campuses. And we have over 100 mobile medical clinics that are effectively saving moms and babies around the nation. And we also have a digital platform for women that provides an always-on access to real care and real options when they're facing an unplanned pregnancy. So when we empower women with compassion and education and holistic healthcare, we're not only empowering them to choose a better life for themselves and their children, but we're creating a culture that respects and values every life.
So I'm on the website now, and you mentioned mobile medical clinics. Is that a stork bus?
Yes, it is. It is. We affectionately call it the stork bus. So it has a state-of-the-art ultrasound and exam room on the bus. And as you can see in that picture, they're so well built, very specialized to help women exactly who are pregnant and needing options, needing counseling. And we always make sure that they know the truth about their pregnancy, the truth about how abortion harms women, and also the truth about options, not only carrying their pregnancy and parenting, but also adoption, or even a brief period of fostering until they're ready to continue parenting. So there's all kinds of ways to empower women who are strong and we believe capable to carry pregnancy and make a wise choice about that baby.
So let's look at the map on that page. It's very interesting. We've got the states and how many buses. And on the website, friends, if you go to SaveTheStorks.org, you can click on what is a stork bus, and there's the map that we're showing you right now. We're in Wisconsin. We're near Green Bay, and there's one bus in the whole state. Anyway, It lists state by state how many buses there are. That's very interesting. And so when these buses are not in use, how does this work? Where do they go? Where does the bus go? It stays in the state, right? That the bus is in. How does that work, Karysse?
Yeah, great question. So we partner with an on-the-ground organization, typically a pregnancy resource center, but sometimes a church, or sometimes just a medical body of individuals who want to offer this service, or a rescue mission. We have a wonderful partnership in California with Orange County Rescue Mission, where they have a bus and are able to bring that into the areas of greatest need. When the bus is not on the ground, they keep it back at the original sort of brick and mortar place, that partner that we have partnered with, and get ready for the next day to get back on the road. And then they can help those patients choose life and then receive that holistic care at the Pregnancy Resource Center or church or a rescue mission.
Awesome. So that leads me to my next question. You mentioned churches. There's a link that says 4 churches on your website. Tell us about church partnership. How does that work? And how can a pastor or a church leader get a hold of you guys and find out more?
Thank you for bringing that up. It's so easy for pastors and church leaders to get our resources. We offer them for free. And there's a course that we offer that has been created online. You can virtually download and see these short but thorough videos on the theology of life and how and why to choose life and how to support women with unplanned pregnancies in your church. It's such a beautiful course, and so important that we're talking about this in the church, making sure that every woman who comes through the church doors feels loved and welcomed when they are pregnant, no matter what the circumstances are.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you about next is you guys have a video series. It's a weekly video series you've started. And I just want to quote, this is a great quote, by the way, and then let you share about the series and how you're using it and how people can get a hold of that. This is a quote from you. Your baby at 20 weeks is about 10 and a half inches and about 10 to 11 ounces, about the size of a banana. So the baby can hear you and feel you and will sometimes push back when you push on the baby. And then you say, this is a fun time to start interacting with your child, end quote. So the biblical worldview, there is a preborn human being in a mother's womb. And this is at, was it 20 weeks? So
20 weeks?
Yeah, these are great. Tell us about these videos and what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, we just wanted access to the general population, having access to the truth about pregnancy so it's not so scary and they don't feel alone. A lot of times women will have questions that pop up during their pregnancy and they don't feel comfortable talking to their healthcare provider about it, or they don't feel like there's enough time. And so we created a 40-week series. There's one video, 1 to 2 minute video per week of pregnancy, helping moms and dads know what to expect in each week of pregnancy. And there's very common topics: what to eat, what exercise is appropriate, what activities can I do or can't I do, what are Braxton Hicks early contractions. So it's sort of, the bread and butter of pregnancy, but in an accessible way for every woman, making sure that women feel supported in their pregnancy.
What's interesting about this, and kudos for doing this, because that's where a lot of young women are. They're online, right? It says many young women today search for health information through video platforms. Wow. I mean, this is where we are today. But what I wanted to ask you is, why would some women, whether it be young pregnancy or whether they're older and, in life, 30s or whatever, why would they not want to ask their doctor certain questions? Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. The CDC reported they did a big study and reported that women often feel embarrassed or worried about appearing difficult or feel like their healthcare provider is rushed. And so they're really hesitating to ask questions or share
Wow.
concerns with their medical provider. So yeah, this is, rock solid information for pregnancy and really bringing the joy of pregnancy back to women.
Hmm. Well, let's go back to the biblical worldview. What I mentioned in your quote from that video on the 20 weeks in pregnancy, you say start interacting with your child. To some, that might sound like, what, really? Can you explain that a little bit? And how, I mean, there's so many studies that have been done, whether it's playing music or speaking to your baby, right? Your preborn child. Talk to us more about that, Karysse.
Yes, we know that even at 7 weeks gestational age, when your baby is 7 weeks along, they're already starting to interact with their environment, aware of their environment, potentially even feeling pain and showing that they like what their mom is eating or they don't like what their mother is eating, even so early in pregnancy. So by 20 weeks, definitely that baby is listening to what the mom's voice sounds like, able to hear what's going on in the outside world. They love when their moms take deep, slow breaths and are experiencing times of rest. Yeah, I believe they can feel our prayers, that the Lord is answering our prayers even when those babies are within the womb. So yeah, it's a special time,
Uh,
the whole pregnancy journey. We
that's
and
awesome.
oh, go ahead.
No, I just said that's awesome. It's very interesting how I think years ago we didn't have this kind of knowledge or research, and now it's so important because a mother or a family member could even interact, speak or play music or do something that the baby will pick up on. Talk to us a little bit more about some women. They feel unsupported or overwhelmed. And I'm thinking crisis pregnancy, but maybe not, maybe in other situations too. And they need to see these encouraging and educational videos, or they need to contact someone like Save the Storks. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we know that 50% of pregnancies in the United States are unplanned. One out of two women who are pregnant did not plan that pregnancy.
Wow.
And most women who have an unplanned pregnancy are feeling anxious about it and overwhelmed, uncertain, not sure if they're able to continue or provide for that child or have the appropriate stability in their home to have that child, or they could be in an abusive relationship. So that's the typical woman who's getting pregnant today. And Save the Storks makes sure that those women are finding those pregnancy resource centers or our stork buses around the nation so that they feel that they're not alone and they can hear that abortion isn't just taking a pill or having a 1 hour procedure and then that's over. There are risks to abortion, and we make sure that all of our partners know how to counsel women. And these facts are really not well talked about, but they are well studied. The risk of abortion to women. I'll just share that. Do you know there's a 40% increased risk of breast cancer for women who have just one abortion? And that risk goes up the more abortions they have. Second, there's
Wow.
a 36% increased risk of having a preterm birth after having an abortion because the cervix is damaged. So if women want to get pregnant again in the future, sometimes they're having very early preterm births where that child isn't able to live. Third, there's an 81% increased risk of having a chronic mental health condition because of having that abortion, that moment decision to have the abortion. 81% increased risk of lifelong regret, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder,
Mm.
even an increased risk of suicide for these moms. And then, the risk of having that actual procedure for the uterus. There can be infection, bleeding, required future surgery, the inability to get pregnant in the future. So, and I see all of those risks as a practicing obstetrician and gynecologic surgeon. I'm seeing those women coming into our ERs saying, I just had this abortion and the clinic is not taking care of me. They told me to come to the ER if I had complications. They're not even answering their phone. So here I am. And I'm telling you, that is the status quo around the nation, that these abortion providers just, wash their hands of these women after they get their money for the pills or the procedure. So there's a 10% of women who take the abortion pill have such a severe side effect that they end up in the emergency room, needing having a life altering side effect, and sometimes a life taking side effect like death.
So why aren't we hearing more about what you just shared? And period. I mean, question mark. Why aren't we hearing more in the media? I understand they have a liberal worldview. They think abortion is the sacrament, right? They want to protect abortion at all costs, defend Planned Parenthood and all that. Is there more to it? Why aren't we hearing these truths?
Major money that is funding the CDC and the World Health Organization are coming from individual corporations or organizations that have an agenda, that are pushing abortion. These individuals think erroneously, erroneously, that abortion is somehow going to help the world population or, give women freedom. But of course, they themselves have never had an abortion. So the money behind funding is a big reason why these facts are hushed. They have been tried to be brought up at the CDC, the National Institutes of Health here in America, I know as a fact, and they're just immediately pushed down and the next subject is talked about. So these are international studies of hundreds of thousands of women prove these facts.
Wow. Well, I know I've written about it for years in different books and articles, and I know a lot of our friends, pastors that I know preach about it, talk about it, but we need a whole lot more. Brief pause, Karysse, I've got to mention something that's going on, getting ready for the fall here. Freedom Project Academy is enrolling students for the fall. They've been doing this for 16 years. FPA has delivered a fully accredited classical online education rooted firmly in Judeo-Christian values for kids in pre-K through high school. They offer live, anytime, and homeschool courses to fit your child's needs. Visit freedomforschool.com. Save 10% on tuition when you use the code DAVID. Again, freedomforschool.com, and save 10% on all courses at Freedom Project Academy, because we know what kind of education kids are getting from the government-run school system that will teach you everything against the biblical worldview. So back to Dr. Karysse Hutson. So let's tell us about your thoughts on Planned Parenthood recently regained their funding again, over $600 million, I believe, taxpayer money, because, Congress or the Senate, one of the two, didn't vote to continue the ban because Trump wanted to ban funding. Thank you, but you've got to keep doing that, and now they're getting the money again. Isn't that frustrating to you? It's infuriating to me.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And I think, first of all, as a physician, that this abortion is harming women. Abortion is not a freedom for women. It is a curse. It is a lifelong burden and a physical problem that they will carry the rest of their lives. So abortion is hurting women in our nation and worldwide. Also, if you're trying to push, the women's rights narrative, do you know that at least 2 million more female babies are aborted internationally than male babies. So allowing abortion is decreasing the female population nationally and internationally. So yeah, I always try to find a common ground with people who are opposing a pro-life worldview and stance. And I think the key is to say, I hear that you care about women's health, and I do too. I love that you have women's health and women's rights on the top of your radar. And that is my goal too. And here is the actual truth, that abortion harms women physically, emotionally, mentally, and it's reducing the female population in our nation and internationally. So sometimes just bringing those simple truths, planting those seeds, even if your opposition doesn't feel like they're responding well to those truths, at least you're planting the truth. And always do bring it with love. It's so easy to get so angry when someone is opposing truth, and of course biblical truth. But I think as Christians, our greatest gift is to come with this loving, humble heart and find that common ground, and then bring the truth in love.
So let's talk about events. You guys got a few things on your website, very interesting. One of them is called Be Bold for Jesus, and that's a conference. If you go to events at SaveTheStorks.org, look at the people that are going to be speaking there. Pastor Rob McCoy, Dennis Quaid, Pastor Greg Laurie, Ray Comfort, and some others. There's music. Tell us about that, because I find that to be fascinating in that it seems like, okay, you're about, pro-life and helping women, but then you're also about, Christian, the worldview too, the biblical worldview. This sounds like a great event.
Yes, absolutely. We are a Christian organization. The heartbeat of what we do is to bring the gospel to those most in need. And we feel like we can do that effectively through saving moms and saving the unborn, and with excellence in medicine, with excellence in social services, and with excellence spiritually. So we are partnering with that Be Bold conference. It's in Spokane, Washington, coming up. And there are beautiful speakers, and we'll be there too, sharing what Save the Storks does and how important life is, how important it is to embrace women with unplanned pregnancies, and also to be talking with young people about the benefits of abstinence, delaying sexual activity until marriage between a man and a woman. So yeah, we're excited to be a part of that conference.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that, because we don't hear that A word. We hear all about abortion, but we don't hear about abstinence, and we don't hear about adoption. Please share anything else that's on your heart about those two things.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so passionate about both of those. Educating our young people is such a key. They don't know the facts, and they can learn and take it in to make a life change. So make sure you're talking to students, even starting 4th or 5th grade, reminding them that sex, when they first learn about what sexual intercourse is, that belongs in a marriage, and that's a beautiful gift from God for marriage between a man and a woman. And there's not only science always supports the Bible. True science supports the Bible because God created science. So our scientific research on abstinence shows that there's less boys and girls who wait to have sex until they're married have less lifelong sexually transmitted infections that can lead to death. They have a greater sense of happiness. They're less depressed when they wait to have sex until marriage. They make more money, hundreds of thousands of dollars more over a lifetime on average than someone who is having sex before marriage. They're graduating from college and high school more. So scientific research proves that the Bible is right that waiting to have sex until marriage is the best way to protect an individual's heart, mind, finances, body. So yes, let's talk about it. Let it not be a taboo subject in our homes, with your extended family. Just find ways to not feel so embarrassed or, afraid of talking about that beautiful gift from God for marriage, because it's all over the media, any sexuality. So, and then adoption, like you said, is such a beautiful thing. Of course, as Christians, we are adopted sons and daughters of God. And I think it is an absolute perfect picture of how God loves us when we can adopt a baby or even a child. And like you said, that also is never talked about and seems a bit taboo. But I want especially us as Christians to lead the way, embracing adoption, talking about adoption, featuring adoption stories on our social media, even if we're not directly involved with adoption, making it something desirable, and which it is, to give a child a home of love and a forever home. Is just what God has done for us.
Yes, make life great again. Talk about adoption, talk about abstinence and waiting till marriage. Biblical worldview, friends. This is such an important subject. So really, they're not pro-choice. Otherwise, they would talk about the choices of adoption and the choice of abstinence before having sex. Anyway, that's a side topic, Karysse. But one more thing. Let's have a little fun before we let you go. Over on the media tab on your website, in the news, looks like you've got a mascot, 𝐸𝐵𝐾𝐿. There's a picture of 𝐸𝐵𝐾𝐿 from the Grand Canyon. Pro-life mascot travels the U.S. raising awareness. Tell us a little bit about this.
Oh, we love 𝐸𝐵𝐾𝐿. So 𝐸𝐵𝐾𝐿 shows up anywhere that there is a decision for life, in Washington, D.C., at Stand for Life events nationally, and here showing the beautiful Grand Canyon, reminding people across, especially social media, that being pro-life can be fun, is the abundant life, as it's a gift. Of course, initially there's a lot of attacks for pro-life individuals, but just cling to that hope in Christ that we are actually living the abundant life. We're not spending and losing our lives as Christians. We are the fragrance of life and of Christ wherever we go. And so definitely we can have fun with our mascot and at pro-life events.
Awesome. Appreciate what you guys do. SaveTheStorks.org. I forgot to mention, you guys, you're all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn. Find Save the Storks. Dr. Hutson, thank you so much for your expertise and what you shared today. I appreciate the work to do, and I'm sure our audience and our viewers and listeners do as well. God bless you.
Thank you so much, David. God bless you too and your ministry. We're so grateful to be a partner and collaborate with you.
Amen. Appreciate your time. Thanks, friends. Share this one. God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.